Welcome back to our deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty fascinating. It's the story of Graceland, Elvis Presley's home, and how it almost, well, vanished financially after he died in August 77.
It's a really dramatic situation they walked into. The sources show when Elvis passed, the estate faced this huge multi-million-dollar tax bill.
Okay.
But they had like less than $1 million in cash available. Less than $1 million.
Wow. It's tight.
Very tight. And then you add the cost of just maintaining Graceland itself, about $500,000 a year back then.
Just upkeep.
Just upkeep. So, selling it off quick,
Yeah.
maybe even foreclosure, that seemed almost certain.
Incredibly bleak, yeah. So the big question we're digging into, looking at the sources, is who really saved it? Who gets the credit? Was it Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager? His immediate moves brought in cash.
Right. Or was it Priscilla Presley who stepped in later and built the whole Graceland experience we know now?
That's the core tension here.
And the main point we see emerging from the material is that Parker's emergency deals, those merchandising deals, however controversial they were later, they provided this absolutely vital cash flow bridge, just enough to stop everything from collapsing right away before Priscilla's long-term plan could even, get started.
Okay, let's break that down then. Two phases, really. Phase one,
Mm-hmm.
Colonel Parker, right after Elvis died. What did he actually do?
Well, he moved fast. Like within 24 hours, Parker's in New York. He's meeting with RCA, meeting with merchandise companies.
Straight away.
Immediately, ordering tons of in memory of Elvis stuff, records, posters, buttons, you name it. He knew there'd be this huge wave of public grief and, well, demand.
Cashing in on the moment, essentially.
You could say that. And this led pretty quickly by September 77 to setting up a specific company, Factors, etc., just to handle all this new merchandise.
Factors, etc. Okay. And how was that structured?
Well, that's key. And it became a real sticking point later. Parker got 56%, a huge chunk.
56% for himself.
For himself. The estate and some other partners got the rest, like 22% each. And maybe even more critically, Parker negotiated a 50% commission for himself on all the licensing revenue.
50%. Half.
Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
extremely high.
It was definitely controversial. But the sources argue this setup, it did generate that crucial cash bridge.
How much are we talking?
Roughly $1 million a year flowed back to the Presley Trust from 77 through about 81.
$1 million a year.
Yeah. And that money was absolutely essential. It paid those immediate taxes, it covered Graceland's huge running costs, kept the staff paid. According to these accounts, that's what stopped foreclosure. Plain and simple. During those really vulnerable first few years.
But that 50% commission, that couldn't last forever, surely.
No, it didn't. Eventually, a legal guardian appointed for Lisa Marie's interest looked at the books
Yeah.
and called Parker's commission excessive, which, well, seems fair. This led to a lawsuit filed in 81. It ended with a settlement in 1983 that basically removed Parker's control over the estate's licensing. But by then, his really aggressive, maybe even predatory tactics, they'd done their job. They'd provided that buffer.
Right. Which sets the stage for phase two. Priscilla Presley steps up. This is after Elvis's father, Vernon, died in 79.
Exactly. Vernon passed, and Priscilla became a co-trustee for Lisa Marie. She started working with the other trustees, brought in Jack Soden as CEO. They were still under financial pressure, though, and realized they needed a totally different strategy, something long-term.
And that strategy was opening Graceland to the public. That sounds like a massive game.
It was enormous, a huge risk. They basically took the last significant chunk of cash the estate had left, about $560,000, and poured it into getting the mansion ready for public tours. They opened the doors in June 1982.
Wow, so 560 Ks.
Yeah.
The last of their money. How did that gamble pay off initially?
Incredibly well. The sources say they made back that entire $560,000 investment in just 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
4 weeks. From ticket sales alone, it was an instant success. It proved their new direction was right.
Okay, so that's the turning point. And building on that, they set up Elvis Presley Enterprises, EPE.
That's it. EPE became their own company to handle everything, licensing, management, the works, in-house.
Smart, taking control back.
Exactly, and let them diversify way beyond just the tours, merchandise, sure, but also publishing, film rights, building a sustainable business around the Elvis legacy.
And that really turned things around completely.
Oh, absolutely. Within maybe 10 years of opening Graceland, the estate's value shot past the $100 million mark.
$100 million.
Yeah. And Graceland itself became the second most visited house in the U.S. A huge landmark, a profitable engine driving the whole Presley heritage thing.
So looking back at these two phases, you've got Parker's, let's call it emergency intervention, controversial, high commission, but it brought in cash fast, stopped the bleeding,
Right, the immediate fix.
versus Priscilla and her team's approach,
Yeah.
strategic, long-term, building this whole sustainable empire. It brings us back to that first question.
No.
Who's the real savior of Graceland?
It's tough, isn't it? I mean, could Graceland have even survived those first few years without Parker's frantic merchandising? Even with those terrible terms, would the IRS have just forced a sale before Priscilla's plan even had a chance?
That's a fair point. He provided the lifeline, didn't he? But then again, it was Priscilla's vision, EPE, that built the actual lasting wealth and secured the legacy.
Exactly. You have to wonder, was Parker just looking out for number one with that huge cut? Or were his methods, however, let's say, crude? Were they the only way to get that kind of emergency cash right then?
And think about this. What if that 50% deal hadn't been stopped? Could the estate ever have grown like it did, or would it have just been slowly drained?
It really makes you consider what saving something means, doesn't it? Is it the first responder stopping the immediate crisis?
Or is it the master planner who builds for a healthy, stable future?
It's definitely something to chew on. A complex story behind a place so many people know and love gives you a different perspective on Graceland's survival, something for you to think about.